Shalom to everybody. My name is Jeff Kay. It is my privilege to welcome you to the opening plenary session of Ben-Gurion University of the Negev's 54 Board of Governor meetings, and 54 is 3 times Chai, 3 times 18. None of us take for granted that we are here together. None of us. Exactly 20 years ago, on this very stage, at the opening session of the 34th Board of Governors, the late chairman of the Board of Governors, Lord Weidenfeld, said, "I wish I were able to say these words with a quieter heart, that Israel and the Jewish people were not shadowed by new and perilous threats, but in young Israelis like those I encounter on this magnificent campus, I have every confidence." End of quote. And although we are once reminded again by Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, En chadash tachat hashemesh, there is nothing new under the sun, like Lord Weidenfeld, we remain confident. Just 1 hour ago, we left the Nova Music Festival, in fact, the Killing Fields, about which Paul David Hewson, known popularly as Bono, the lead singer of U2, sang on October 8, "Stars of David, they took your lives, but they could not take your pride." Our hearts are so heavy with the weight of loss and the pain of memory. We stand in solid remembrance of the lives lost on October 7 and during the Iron Swords War, events that have left an indelible mark on our nation, our community, and our people. We would like to take a moment to honor 66 members of our community, those who were murdered in cold blood and those who fell since October 7 defending Israel. And as we speak and sit here, 128 hostages remain in Gaza, among them our own Noah Al-Gamani. Many of them are no longer alive. Each one has a family at home, agonizing and painfully yearning for their return. Among them are cherished members of our own BGU family. Their absence is an open wound in each of our hearts that will refuse to heal so long as they are not home. In the face of uncertainty and fear, let us do everything in our power to bring them home, showing unwavering resolve, drawing strength from the bonds of solidarity that unite us. May our collective actions and collective prayers serve as a beacon of light in the darkness, guiding them safely back to the embrace of their loved ones. And let us also reaffirm our commitment within the BGU community to supporting one another through these difficult times. Let us now stand for a moment of silence, a time to remember and honor those people who we've lost and to send our thoughts and prayers to those still in captivity. Thank you. Please be seated. Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, of blessed memory, Zal, who was an honorary member of this Board of Governors, taught us that people often confuse optimism with hope. They sound similar, but in fact, he said, they're very different. Optimism is the belief that things are going to get better. Hope is the belief that if we work hard together, things will become better. It needs no courage, just a little naivety to be an optimist. It needs a great deal of courage to have hope. No Jew, knowing what we do about Jewish history and our own past, so often written in tears, can be an optimist. But no Jew who is a true Jew can ever give up hope. And that is why Judaism is the voice of hope in the conversation of humankind, of humanity. And hope is what transforms the human situation. And as we gather our thoughts and our emotions, it is my honor to invite Chairman of the Board of Governors, Lloyd Goldman, to officially open our 54th Annual Board of Governors. Lloyd.
Dear members of the Board of Governors, Professor Chamovitz, Rector Chaim, members of faculty, friends, and guests. First, I would like to welcome everyone to the 54th Annual Board of Governors meeting, and especially to thank all of you who have come from afar. Now, more than ever, is our time to be together. It is not surprising that so many of us chose to attend the meeting this year. Just a month ago, on Passover, we read the Haggadah and asked, what makes this night different from all other nights? The answer is that the Seder is a time to retell and remember our deliverance from Egypt. This year's board will likewise be different from all other board meetings. This time, we are not here to simply review what has happened at our beloved university over the past year and count its achievements. This time, we have come to listen, learn, and understand. We have come to take part in retelling and remembering. And we have to come express our support and love and see where our help is most needed. And just as importantly, we have come to share our own experiences and feelings about what happened on October 7th and in the time since, both in Israel and around the world. It has not been easy for any of us. My hope is that the board events will provide a catharsis of sorts, that through our time together, our sharing, and our support for BGU, the Negev, and Israel, we will emerge comforted and recharged so that we can return with redoubled strength to face anti-Semitism at home and stand united in purpose to help rebuild the Negev better than ever. Ben-Gurion University of the Negev responded to events and challenges quickly and admirably as they unfolded. Indeed, I am proud of BGU for living to its mandate and promise of being the University of the Negev. And I look forward to learning more over the next 3 days. Our friends and supporters around the world likewise stepped up and gave generously, making possible the university's response and support for those affected by the attack and its aftermath. Thank you for this much-needed financial and emotional support. I also want to express my appreciation, and I am sure I speak for many of us, to President Professor Daniel Chamovitz, the Rector, Professor Chaim, and to Jeff Kay, Vice President for Public Affairs and Resource Development, for their leadership and for their efforts to stay in touch with and to reach out to friends and associates overseas during the past 8 months. Danny's emails and Zoom calls felt like a lifeline in the early days after the October 7 attacks. He conveyed so clearly and compelling the complementary and contradictory feelings I'm sure we all had, of being sad and being hopeful, broken and strong. Now is our time to be together and to look to the future. It is a privilege to be part of the rebuilding of the Negev. This will be no minor task. I hope we can count on your support as we strive to make Ben-Gurion's vision a reality, to transform the Negev into a place we can be proud of and once again be a light unto the world, even brighter than it was before. As the world looks to Israel, we need to be even better to fight anti-Semitism and to show all of the great things we do. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Lloyd, for your inspiring words and for the mention. I'm going to take a leaf out of Rabbi Zach's teachings and talk about hope. In our times of adversity, our resilience as a community shines brightest. Today, we affirm the importance of Ben-Gurion University for the Negev's rehabilitation, now more than ever.
Defying the impossible is how the State of Israel was founded. Making the desert bloom was David Ben-Gurion's proof of concept. It is impossible not to be reminded of something David Ben-Gurion said some 70 years ago. The people of Israel will be tested not anywhere else, but here, in the Negev. And on October 7th, we were tested like never before. On that dark day, lives were lost. Families and communities were torn apart. Students and faculty members, staff, teachers, researchers, instructors, and their family members. In many ways, October 7th was also an assault on the very idea of what the Negev represents in our collective Zionist imagination. Since its establishment in 1969, Ben-Gurion University made a solemn pact to serve as a beacon of hope, a shining light, first to the Negev then to the whole state of Israel. Woven into the fabric of this region, serving as an engine for growth, development, and prosperity of the towns, villages, and communities that thrive here. Today, dozens of international high-tech companies are here, attracted by the high density of top researchers and the high caliber of employees from this area. It is also the new home to Israel's elite national intelligence and cyber groups. Our campus is on its way to doubling in size, blustering the amazing potential of our 20,000 strong student body and faculty. Medical breakthroughs, autism research, climate tech, trauma and resilience practice, digital humanities, and cybersecurity. The campus in Sde Boker is at the forefront of desert tech and water research. It's Ben-Gurion's vision come to life. Ben-Gurion is unlike any other university. Our purpose is to build up the Negev no less than it is to educate our students. Walk around our campuses and you'll feel a contagious spirit, a passion, and a desire to make a difference. It's the BGU blend. You'll meet students from all around the country who feel a special sense of purpose here in the Negev. A new generation of 21st century pioneers dreaming of how they can make Israel thrive. The difficult, we do first. The impossible, that can take a little longer. In these days, post-October 7th, we're taking on the difficult first. Repairing what was broken, replanting what was uprooted. But doing the impossible, that can't wait. So right here, right now, we are doubling down on creating new ways for the Negev and the people of Israel to grow back bigger and better. Making good on this mission of securing Israel's future by revitalizing the Negev, that's what we do. Every single day.
I want to thank Dorit for putting a smile on our faces. Dorit, please stand and let everybody see you. And now it is my pleasure to call on Professor Daniel Chamovitz, President of Ben-Gurion University, for his presidential address.
That was great. It really was. 6 years ago, I stood on the stage for the first time, and that was the last time we met together here in Sonnenfeldt, the Claire Sonnenfeldt Auditorium. 6 years ago, I had no idea what I was doing. I was brand new. Promised me lots of parties, lots of international travel. The next year, we had COVID. The year after that, we had COVID. The year after that, we had the riots of May. The year after that, we had the largest civilian demonstrations in the history of Israel with the judicial overview, and this was going to be a different year. And then came October 7th, and we've heard a lot about that already. And I've written to you probably too many times about broken and strong. And I asked ChatGPT to come up with a vision of broken and strong, and this is what it came up with. So all of the visions, all of the visuals that I'm using were created by artificial intelligence as a game for me and to sort of see where we're going in the future. But we've talked too much about, it's not that we've talked too much. We're going to be hearing more about October 7th. We had a very emotional morning in Re'im. We even had some sound effects for you. But what I want to talk about was what this year was supposed to be on October 6th. On October 6th, we were planning what was to be our victory lap year. Now I asked ChatGPT, give me a vision of a victory lap for Ben-Gurion University. Unfortunately, it couldn't really know how to spell Ben-Gurion. It added 2 R's, and it couldn't quite get what the symbol is, but I'm using it anyway. And why was this to be our victory lap year? It's our victory lap year because 5 years ago, we talked about a strategic plan. And our strategic plan was to put an emphasis on research, which would enable us to have the resources to transform the university. And what we're going to see, what I really would like to tell you about, is how this has worked. This was supposed to be our victory lap year, and we can't forget that despite everything that we've had to deal with, this really is a victory lap for Ben-Gurion University. And I'd like to talk about what is a victory lap in research, for example. So we put a huge emphasis on increasing the amount of research the university does, with the belief that if we increase our research output, we would get increased funding from the government. And that's how we're funded through the government. Let me just show you two graphs. This shows the amount of independent external research funding our researchers get from the National Science Foundation, from the Israel Science Foundation, from the European Research Council over the past 6 years. You could see it's up over 25% and just going on up. And this is translated into a huge increase in the amount of money that we're funded by the Council of Higher Education. From 2019 to 2023, this has gone up by $12 million, and this should be annually, $12 million. Which is interesting, we celebrate a donation of $12 million. Why shouldn't we celebrate an increase because of what the university does? And what this has enabled us to do is to increase the number of fellowships we have by 11%, increase the amount of money that we give to young researchers to bring them to the Negev by 45%. This has enabled us to increase our support of the employees of Ben-Gurion University in various manners that we enable their activities. From employees to students to researchers, this increase, and we hope it just keeps, makes us better. And just a couple of examples. 4 researchers this year who got incredibly prestigious ERC grants, whether it be Professor Goldman Ashkenazi in chemistry, Dr. Dan Bar Yaakov in microbiology and immunology, and especially Dr. Shira Chapman in physics and Dr. Eran Maniv. Those are 2 young faculty members who came to Ben-Gurion University over the past 4 years, and they were recruited to us because of gifts from the Weinstein family, from the Crown Foundation, to bring the best young talent, and they've proven it, that our investment in them worked. And I just want to give one specific example of one of our senior researchers who you may never have heard of, don't know. Professor Itzik Mizrahi in life sciences and also part of the National Institute for Biotechnology in the Negev. He's been supported by 3 European grants to upwards of 7 million euros. He's also funded through the Marcus Endowment. And just one thing he discovered this past year, an article that was published in the most prestigious journal, Science. And what Itzik studies is your gut bacteria. And what could be so interesting about your microbiome? Who cares about what bugs you have in your stomach? Well, aside from the fact he's also shown why cows burp so much and that you can stop them from burping, but that's a company he made. He's discovered that in the evolution of industrialized societies, from apes to hunter-gatherers to rural societies, we've progressively lost the bacteria that know how to digest fiber. And that's why we have so many digestive problems. And so now from his work, we can figure out how to add these bacteria back to increase the nutritional capacity for us to eat plants and to digest fiber like other mammals, like other animals. Let's talk about the victory lap for students. And little talked about secret is that over the past 14 years, Ben-Gurion University has lost 1,200 students. Slowly, 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 each year we had a reduction in students. We don't like to talk about that because that's not something to be proud about. 1,200 students is equal to $10 million a year of tuition and graduate support. But because of concerted effort of the Rector's office and the Director General's office, we've changed this curve, and we haven't done it in the low-lying fruit. We've done it in humanities, where people said it was impossible to bring more students. I just want to give Again, example. Here we see 3 departments between 2022 and 2023. Philosophy, political science, art history, almost doubling the number of students in humanities. If we look at registration, students who want to come next year, this is through week 12 of registration. Okay, we still have another all through the whole summer. We've almost doubled the number of students registered for the humanities and social sciences. We were told it's impossible. But if we could do it in social science and humanities, we could definitely do it in computer science and everywhere else in the faculty. And that's going to also increase the amount of resources that we have to provide for our community. And we'd love to talk about innovation. But innovation is not only building companies. Innovation is changing the way we do research, changing the ways we do teaching, it's changing the ways that we think. A couple examples. Last week in Stable Care, we launched what is simply called the Institute. It's a collaboration between Ben-Gurion University, NVIDIA, Microsoft, small companies. One of our donors, Dovi Francis, who you met last year, couldn't be here this year, who donated $1 million to this. And our goals are modest. We want to make Beersheba the AI capital of the world, just like before we made it the cyber capital of the world. And beyond everything, we're going to work together to bring to Beersheba Israel's supercomputer. There's no supercomputer for civilian use, and it needs to be built in Beersheba. We had the president of Israel at the opening, and he's committed to help us doing that. How is that going to change our society? But not only technology. We're changing the world by, we have a new export. And our export is shared societies. Professor Sarab Abu Rabia, Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion, took a group of Muslim, Arab, and Jewish students to the United States last September, less than a month before, to lead seminars at the University of Rochester on shared society, for them to learn how we take people with conflict, clear conflicts, but have the ability to sit down together and accept that we don't agree. The president who's a close friend of mine of University of Rochester said, Danny, we can't even get Democrats and Republicans to sit down and talk. And hopefully, Sarab had been invited then by several other universities to do the same thing. But we realized our experience is an export of Ben-Gurion University, which can influence the world. How important is that on campuses in North America and Europe today? In terms of research and studying, we talk about 2 new interdisciplinary centers. We have the National Institute for Climate Policy Research, part of the Goldman Sonnenfeldt School of Sustainability and Climate Change, run by Tamar Zandberg, who you should meet and talk to. We have the Center for Sports Diplomacy. How do those 2 words go together? Sports and diplomacy. Think about how we think about Qatar because of how they've marketed themselves using sport. Professor Sharon Pardo pitched this to us, and we sold it within a minute. We supported it within a minute because it just made so much sense how we could be doing new things with our academia. And I want to give you 2 sneak previews. First time, sneak preview number 1. We'll celebrate this next year at the Honorary Doctorate Ceremony, the Sami Segol Medical School for International Health. This is our Medical School for International Health, which used to be international. It's now become an Israeli medical school, still taught in English. But as Sami calls it, and he's an incredible man, you'll get to know him, it's a medical school that's dedicated to health and not disease. Now, sneak preview number 2. Hold your breath. The Stuart and Tunny Young School of the Human Experience. Another image. I actually love this image. I put in a description of the school. The school, we'll hear about this more next year, is to make us, to study what does it mean to be human in this changing world. How can the humanities influence everything that we do? And I put in the description, and this is what they came up with. Isn't that beautiful? In the last victory lap, I'll call it the victory lap of support. I said, give me a picture of people who support the university. And it needs to be, you know, who's who. We have a giant also. We have many giants among us. I said that it needs to be diverse in body size and in age. If you'll notice, this woman has Escher legs. You're not sure which, take a look at it, which is the right and which is the left. So we need to remember that AI can hallucinate. But over the past 7 months, the supporters of Ben-Gurion University raised $14 million, which is more than twice the amount of any other university in Israel. That is not to be taken for granted. But even more than that, I mean, we all know about Sylvan Adams and his $100 million, the second largest gift ever to Ben-Gurion University, and the third largest gift ever to academia in Israel. And last year, I announced that we had a goal of the way forward for $1 billion for Ben-Gurion University by 2030. And that sounded audacious. But look where we've gotten in 1 year, from 2023 to 2024. When we started the Board of Governors yesterday, less than 24 hours ago, we were below $420,000, and now we're above $420 million, and now we're above $425 million. And this is from donors worldwide, and I have no doubt that we will reach our goal before 2030 if we remain focused, if we remain hopeful and not only optimistic. And why we are doing this is for everything I've been talking about, but also for the North Campus, as we saw. And can you imagine this at the 100th meeting of the Board of Governors, what our North Campus will look like? I just want to close by saying that this is done by so many people. And because I was limited in time, I only put up a slide of the academic leadership, but it's also about the administrative leadership. When I took over, when you elected me 6 years ago, in this picture, there would have only been one woman. That's sort of surprising. But if we look at the academic leadership of Ben-Gurion University today, we're almost up to 50%. We've put that as our goal to be 50% men and women. If we look at our administrative leadership, it's the exact same type of picture today. Almost 50% women among the administrative leadership. And it's all of these people who wake up and go to sleep thinking about, dreaming about, worrying about our students and about the Negev, which gives me incredible hope for our future. That despite this disaster, that despite our pain and the fact that we will cry more this weekend, I promise you, I believe that we are now on the verge of a victory lap for Israel, and that Ben-Gurion University is a massive part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our esteemed president. That's an inside joke for some of us. You didn't get it. It is now my pleasure to invite Lloyd Goldman and Aviva Barash, the liaison to the Board of Governors, and together they will lead with the procedural matters that are so important to the continuation of our board. Thank you, Lloyd and Aviva.
Present with us today are 4 of our vice chairpersons, Stephen Breslauer, Ellen Marcus, Carol Saul, and Tony Young, who is also chair of the Global Development Committee. We are pleased to announce the nomination of 2 of our most dear friends to become vice chairs to the Board of Governors, Sylvan Adams and Lawrence Oihan. All in favor of electing these members as vice chairs, please raise your hands. Anyone against? Thank you. These nominations are approved by acclamation. On May 7th, the Finance Committee reviewed and approved the university's financial statements valid for September 30th, 2023, which you received electronically in advance. We now ask the Board of Governors to approve the financial statements. Those in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Thank you. The board hereby approves the financial statements. The university's budget was reviewed and approved by the executive committee and was forwarded to you electronically in advance. We will now vote on the budget. Those in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Thank you. The board hereby approves the budget.
Our next order of business is to welcome new board members to the BGU family. But first, we must sadly also acknowledge those dear friends who have left us during the past year. These are the names of the board members and other supporters who have passed away since our last meeting. Zoe Adams, Robert Badinter, Esther Cooper-Smith, James Crown, Captain Donald DeBode, Robert Ellman, Rochelle Ettingen, Russell Frank, Professor Richard Friedman, Stanley Ginsberg, Daniel Guggenheim, Professor Daniel Kahneman, Harvey Meyerhoff, Professor Needleman, Roberta Scheller, Hannah Stern, Edith Zinn, and Mark Zlotnick. May their memory be blessed. Yehi zichram baruch.
I would now like to present the recommendations for the re-election of the members of the Board of Governors whose terms expire this year. These recommendations are the result of consultations with the nominees and the relevant associate organizations. We will not read the full list, but I ask you to refer to the renewal nominations that appear in the booklet placed on your seats. All in favor of re-electing these members, please raise your hands. Anyone against? Thank you. These nominations are approved by acclamation. I would like to thank each and every one of you for your continued service and partnership. We would now like to express our sincere gratitude to the members of the board who will retire at the end of this meeting. I am confident that we can count on their continued interest and support. And finally, we would like to present the recommendations of the nominating committee for new members of the Board of Governors who will serve a 3-year term. These recommendations are the result of broad consultations, including with the relevant associations and organizations. Please refer to the Board of Governors booklet that were distributed earlier for more information on our new nominees.
We have Adam Corbin from Canada, Anat Guggenheim from Switzerland, Cindy Ingerman-Balick from the United States, Craig Simon from the United States, David Chin from Israel, Hilai Frati Halper from Israel, Lisa Field, United States, Max Gitter, who's with us, from the United States, Philippe Amon, Switzerland, Dr. Rinat Galili from Israel.
All in favor? Anyone against? Thank you. These nominations are approved by acclamation. Could our new members please rise as we congratulate them on their appointments and wish them a successful term of office.
Whoever's here. Okay. I'm honored to call upon Philippe Amon to say a few words on behalf of the new members of the Board of Governors. Please, Philippe.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I think I also speak for my fellow board members when I say that it is with great humility that I accept today to join the Board of Governors of Ben-Gurion University of the Negev. I would like to thank the members of the nominating committee for their support and confidence. It is indeed an honor to be given the opportunity to support and promote the remarkable work that BGU has been doing since its foundation in 1969 with respect to education and research. As one of Israel's leading universities, BGU significantly contributes to a number of multidisciplinary developments impacting the humanities in its respective fields and the university commitment to academic excellence in all faculties, where the link to science or humanity has gained international recognition. At a time of existential challenges and complexity for both the State of Israel and the Jewish people, I strongly believe and hope that the quest for an academic and scientific excellence has its role to play in the resilience of the Jewish people, as it has always been a determining factor through history. Knowledge is indeed a fundamental pillar of our society and people. The world we live in would not be the same without the great breakthroughs and scientific advances made by pioneering institutions and people, institutions such as BGU, who have contributed to the progress of humankind. The time that we are navigating through is once more the repeating manifestation of such a cycle, and I am convinced that again, the result of the BGU academia work will turn the clock back to where it should be on a number of significant issues. As member of the BGU community, let's play our part in putting the truth back on the world agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Philippe. Before I continue, I apologize, I didn't mention that there's Elliot Kahn that we have from Canada too, who's here with us today, and he's a new member, so welcome. Okay, the Board of Governors plays a vital role in supporting, promoting, and facilitating the well-being and the growth of the university. Our committees provide oversight, expertise, and invaluable insights that we take very seriously. This year, we will hear from 3 committees: the Diversity and Inclusion, Student Affairs, and Campus Development. We thank all our friends who have agreed to serve as official members on the committees, as well as those who joined the discussions yesterday ad hoc. Special thanks goes to Joanne Moore, David Breslauer, Josh Arno and his representative Brent Latin, who agreed to chair these committees together with, together they do it with the professionals from the university. Udi Lerner, Professor Sarah Babu Rabia, and Professor Orna Almog. Thank you. I'm delighted to call upon Dr. David Breslauer, Chairman of the Campus Development Committee, to share remarks about the meeting yesterday. Please, David.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me start by thanking the 20 people who not only came, but came and stayed for an hour and a half and participated in this meeting. The objective of the Campus Development Committee is strategic thinking on donor-related issues pertaining to new and existing facilities. Obviously, we're all very excited about the new campus and the new buildings, but we also are now 54 years old. There are a number of buildings that are either being repurposed or maybe just decommissioned. And the question becomes, what do you do with that building? In particular, what do you do with the name on that building? Especially if you had given $20 million for a building, you just want your name taken off. So we started by talking to Jeff and asked him if he would tell us what most campuses do. And we found out that normally you give the naming donor the first right to pay for the renovation of the building. If they choose not to, we can go look for other donors. However, the original donor's name stays on the building. A plaque goes up that says who renovated it and when, and in a very prominent position. But we do not take the name down of the original donor. The first thing we did, first thing we voted on was that, and we did vote to recommend to the university that this become a policy for them, not just a standard procedure that they follow. We also talked about a sunsetting clause. That is, when you look at commercial buildings, like the naming of an arena, normally it's for 20 or 25 years. We determined that that's appropriate for the naming of an arena and for a commercial institution, but not for philanthropy. And at this time, we are not recommending that anything be done by the university with respect to sunsetting. Finally, there was a question of, suppose a building is taken down, and there are buildings that are old enough or just not in a state to be repaired. What do we do to continue to recognize the people who built that building? It's recommended that the university consider putting a Capitol Founders wall up, just like we have the other walls with names of those who have donated money, stating who built the building, when it was built, and doing it by a period of years, a decade, 5 years, something like that, so that we do not lose the history of Ben-Gurion University. Again, I want to thank those who spent the time discussing this, voting on it, and I'd like to thank everybody here for everything that you do.
Thank you, David, for the informative summary. And now I call upon Joanne Moore, Chairman of the Student Affairs Committee.
Hi. So, first of all, on behalf of the students, for everyone who joined us, we had a nice group as well, and our focus, as the name Student Affairs would imply, was the students. So obviously this year has been an unusual year and has put a great deal of strain on the students, the faculty, and the administration. And the university and the Dean of Students in particular and the Student Union have worked tirelessly to ensure that our students have the support that they need. So for instance, the students have received extra tutoring and assistance to ensure that they can complete their academics, hopefully in this year. For that counts for reserve students, students who've lost family members, etc. The university has also invested a lot of time and energy in ensuring that students know how to navigate the resources that are available to them and to take advantage of everything from psychosocial support to academic support, etc. The Student Union has been working with students to identify what their needs are and then to provide things like yoga and wellness opportunities so that they can get a break and rejuvenate at the same time that they're focused on their studies in a compacted and more intense way. We also heard from 7 students, each of whom has had a different experience. I would love to be able to summarize everything that they said. It's a little bit hard to do. So I'll say that the general sense from the students is that they've received a lot of support. Some of the students noted that they are in some ways the chosen. They were injured in doing reserve duty or in some other way were spotlighted by the university. And they wanted us to all remember that there are other students who are maybe more low-key, maybe considered invisible, who still need support and assistance from the student affairs and the university in general, and asked us all to redouble our efforts to ensure that every student on campus is touched in whatever way they need to be, so that we can ensure a positive experience for all students. The last thing I would say is that the nice thing was that we had a rich diversity of students, and I would say across the board, BGU is supporting them in a host of ways that are unique and special, and I hope that we'll be able to continue to do that going forward. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Joanne, for those important remarks. And finally, I'd like to invite Peggy Cohen-Rabinovich, representative of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, to give a brief summary.
I'm honored to be giving the summary for the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, chaired by the remarkable Sarab Abu Rabia, Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion. And we heard a big mazel tov to Sarab, who received an honorary doctorate from Weizmann Institute yesterday. So the aims of this committee are to reach out to underrepresented students, promote coexistence, foster future leadership, establish safe spaces, and it's sort of an umbrella that we've created, or Sarab really created, of shared lives and shared spaces. So there was foundational work done before and of course since 10/7, and that helped to diffuse tensions on campus. And examples of this is the Shared Life Ambassadors Program, which was a group of 20 students, different backgrounds, who were given tools to develop leadership and plan further projects with their peers. Professors were trained on how to handle diverse classes. They had a wonderful volunteering day in the Arab Jewish ER in Rahat, the biggest city, the biggest Bedouin city. The newest program is training Hebrew-speaking BGU students to work in Bedouin high schools to help them sharpen their Hebrew language skills. Because academia is a natural place to bring different groups together and foster understanding. And it's not just about efforts to reach underrepresented communities. And Sarab highlighted 3 particular communities, although these are only 3 of the many communities that are targeted. And it was the Bedouin, the Haredi, and the Ethiopian community. And each had different challenges and varying degrees of success. And the objection is not just to stress the value of education and that they have the confidence to come to university, but also to encourage them to go from the bachelor's to the master's to the PhD and postdoc in order to create a diverse faculty. Sarab is not just looking to promote the values of shared spaces, but to have an actual physical space, a shared life lab. And the committee acknowledged the need for fundraising to support this critical work and the need for sustainable funding for further projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peggy. We wish all the board committees much luck as they move forward towards the objectives that were laid, and we invite other members to join these committees as permanent committee members and to influence by actual action. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you very much, Lloyd and Aviva, and thank you to David, to Jobo, and to Peggy for these incredibly important reports. And I think that our community deliberations and discussions are important to the university and to all of us here, so thank you. It is now my honor to invite the Rector, Professor Chaim, to present his annual review.
Dear friends and colleagues, welcome to the 54th Board of Governors. I've been thinking a lot about how I wanted to frame my remarks this morning and what I wanted to say to this gathering. In his opening remarks, Danny talked about hope, talked about our lap of victory, focused a little on the metrics. I would like to talk a little about our soul. My remit is all things academic at the university, but I feel it would be remiss not to mention the larger picture, particularly as it affects academia in general and the university in particular. As a society, we are at crossroads, seemingly with no good alternatives. More than 7 months after the 7th of October, and we seem to be in a rut with no clear path forward. Indeed, sometimes it feels like it is Groundhog Day. And without doubt, for us, every day is Noah Argamani Day. Though we go about our daily lives and duties and try to remain positive and upbeat, the mood in general is somber, and the war is taking its toll on our well-being. Wherever one goes, you only have to scratch the surface, and nothing is as it seems. The western Negev is bleeding, the north of Israel is a no-go zone, and our beloved university is trying very hard to provide a semblance of normality, business as usual for all who enter its portals. Trying to remain apolitical, it's important to remember the situation in Israel prior to the 7th of October, 2023. A quick reminder, there was a legislative process designed to undermine Israeli democracy and change the balance of power between the branches of government, which brought hundreds of thousands out onto the streets. Here in the university, the Senate was discussing and issuing proclamations about the dangers of the proposed legislation to academic freedom. The last 7 months have only made matters worse, and along with all the pain and suffering, the loss of friends, colleagues, students, members of our community without homes, refugees in their own country, we've had to deal with increased international isolation, a lack of strategic thinking and planning, and a worsening economic situation that will, without doubt, impact our university budget, and all that before we take into account the academic boycotts and calls to divest, which are increasing daily. And yet, as individuals and a community, we have continued with our mission and strived to attain our goals, to be a leading, research-intensive university attracting the best and the brightest, to have a thriving, welcoming, and engaging campus for our students with high-quality teaching, and to be involved in developing the Negev area and increasing knowledge and providing solutions for the world's problems and challenges. The ingredients that are crucial for great research are not only productive international collaborations, but breaking through academic silos within the university, creating opportunities for the meetings of minds and ideas. The lunches I host almost every week, which bring together researchers from different parts of the university, are a small contribution to this effort. And in early July, here's a sneak preview, we will be having our first university-wide faculty day, an opportunity to meet and learn from and together with researchers from all over the university. We have just successfully completed our first faculty recruitment process for the Goldman Sonnenfeldt School of Sustainability and Climate Change. This process marks a sea change in the way we recruit faculty, in that, because the school is interdisciplinary, it includes researchers from every faculty, it was unclear when we started the process which academic department would benefit, and the search committee itself had to be interdisciplinary. This is an opportunity to thank Professor Yaron Ziv, the outgoing head of the school, for directing the recruitment process and for his leadership of the school through its formation and establishment. It is our hope that the next academic year will also see the first intake of undergraduate students for our new undergraduate degree in sustainability and environmental conservation, along with the new international degree in renewable natural resources at Sde Boker. Our faculty are using their abilities, knowledge, and experience to contribute to the war effort, the rebuilding of the Negev, and the betterment of humanity. Though we are living through one of the most difficult periods in Israel's history, we have continued to do what we do best, cutting-edge research. That is the reason that most of us get up in the morning, and it provides purpose and meaning in very trying times. I remind you that much of the actual research activities in the labs are carried out by students, many of whom have been called up for military service or are partners of those called up to the IDF. This, too, has been a challenge for our researchers and for our students, who now have to make up for lost time, and is very costly for the university, as we have to provide the additional funds that will allow them to devote their time to making up the ground on their research projects. But where there is a will, there's a way. And we have put together a special fund for this purpose, which will run for the next 4 years at least. As you are all aware, the start of the academic year at the university was delayed a number of times. And when classes finally got underway on the 31st of December 2023, we had over 6,000 students and staff on military duty, hundreds of displaced staff and students, relatives of those killed or taken hostage, and the wounded. One of the targets we set ourselves was to provide academic solutions and the necessary support to allow as many of these students as possible to make up their materials they were missing and successfully complete the academic year. To achieve this goal, we had to reorganize the academic year, adding a summer semester, change syllabi, and shorten exams, and we needed the full engagement of the academic and administrative staff, a willingness to go way and beyond the normal demands of the job, and the ability to be flexible, think out of the box, and adapt to changing circumstances. I've already said this on several occasions, but I'm grateful to everyone for stepping up to the challenge in very trying circumstances. Particularly, I want to mention the academic secretary, Ms. Mira Golom, the Dean of Students. She deserves it. The Dean of Students, Professor Orna Almog, and her staff, led by Ms. Merav Yosef Solomon, who worked around the clock together with the faculties to respond in a timely and professional manner to every student. We might not have been able to provide the best solutions for every student, but we have done our utmost to adapt to the different needs and circumstances of our students, and the results speak for themselves. However, there is still a very long way to go, and the effects of this ongoing war will be felt during the coming academic years. As you all know, our campuses are heterogeneous, both in the makeup of the community and in their views and opinions. Much work, thought, and preparation went towards making sure that our campuses remained a safe environment for all the different elements, and that we had a variety of responses for those in need of mental and emotional support. You heard about this just a moment ago. Balancing this with defending freedom of speech has not always been easy, and our approval ratings on this issue are not perfect. But I think that, again, in the main, the results speak for themselves. Each of our faculties have their own identities and ways of doing things which reflect their structure, makeup, and fields of research and teaching. We respect the individual identities of each faculty, but we are also aware that the whole is much more than the parts, and that we need to work together to achieve more and aim higher. Each faculty has its elected dean, heads of departments, academic council, and committees, along with the administrative staff, without whom nothing can be done. This past year, several new deans have begun their tenure, and the academic leadership team is now more gender balanced than it was. Each of the deans leads their respective faculties, set out and aim to reach their goals, but they must also see the university as a whole and work together as a group for the benefit of the whole institution. This year, for the first time, we implemented a leadership workshop for all of us, so that we get to know each other better, to build trust and have a mutual support group. Sometimes it can get lonely at the top. Even though the war meant that we could not do all we planned, I think we have cohered well as a group, and it is a real pleasure for me to work together with them. You can see who they are in the President's report and on the screen just before the Yaniv, the picture of you, Looks rather, Yaniv is here, Yaniv Gelbstein. Yeah, it's an interesting picture of you. And I strongly recommend talking with our academic leadership team and getting to know them, along with my deputies, Professor Gal de Botton and Professor Timur Melamed. You will not be sorry. This is an opportunity to thank Professor Miki Malul, who will be completing his second term as Dean of the Glaser Faculty of Business and Management at the end of July. A new dean is in the process of being elected. This is an opportunity to thank him for all his hard work leading his faculty and the university. Since the 7th of October, as a university, we have been through what no academic institution should ever have to deal with. The loss of employees and their families, students killed and wounded, students and graduates being held hostages in Gaza, faculty and students who are refugees in their own country. Yet, as a community, we have prevailed, and though scarred and hurting, we remain committed to our vision and purpose. We know that we have a significant role to play in the rebuilding of the Western Negev and in helping Israel and Israeli society recover and change for the better. The coming years, perhaps even decades, will not be easy. But like Israel, with all its imperfections and flaws, Ben-Gurion University of the Negev is a beacon of light and here for the long term, and we will rise to the challenges that lie ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Hames. This hereby concludes the opening plenary session.